your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand. Fear's not allowed where dreams can be lost or found.
Hello and welcome to Healing Outside the Box. I'm Traci Crampton. I'm an energy practitioner.
And I'm Rosemary Lachance, and I'm a Reiki energy healer and a spiritual counselor.
And we are dedicated to providing you with food for thought information and answers to all modalities of alternative healing, spiritual development, animal welfare, and environmental concerns in the form of guest speakers who are experts in their fields. We hope we can help you find the answers you are looking for. We encourage you to embrace the show with an open mind and to continue to ask questions that will lead you to better health and greater understanding in your own life. We will give you our contact information at the end of the show, and we welcome you to contact us with any questions that you have on this show or any other shows that you may view. We hope you enjoy.
Okay, and tonight is our 71st show. How about that?
Getting up there.
And our guest tonight is Rachel Perzanowski. Right? Did I say that right?
That's correct.
And she's an animal communicator and intuitive reader. Rachel has been empathic since early childhood. She could always gauge the mood in a room on entrance and learned early on how to comfort those that were upset. Animals gravitated to her, and she was most comfortable with them in nature. She often was aware of illness or tragedy and learned she could predict changes in weather through plants. While on an internship in Florida, she took her first swim with dolphins, and her relationship with animals changed drastically. Time stood still as she played with them underwater, mesmerized by their grace and power. In her amazement, she ended up in a patch of fire coral. Two of the dolphins swam around her and pulled her out of it. She was told that these plants were dangerous and would hurt. When she returned, she learned how to develop her gifts and realized that she had always been reading. It had been so natural to her growing up that she thought everyone could do it. Through the years, her gifts blossomed from clairsenses, that's clear feeling, clear cognizance, clear knowing, to clear audience, clear hearing, and clairvoyance, clear seeing. She became a strong channel in spirit and angel communication. She's worked in the entertainment industry, hosted celebrity parties, taught psychic awareness, and consulted as a medical veterinarian intuitive. She's also assisted with police investigations. Raven's Whisperer, which is the name of her business, was born out of her love for animals and her passion to help people on all levels. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
First of all, I think I wanted to ask you about Raven's Whisper and then about you. How did you get the name Raven's Whisper? That's a beautiful name. I love it.
Thank you. Well, I was looking for a name to represent more about what I did and to really bring in some of that awe and beauty that I found in nature. And I really resonated with the beauty and intrigue of ravens, first of all. And when I started to read about them and learn about their mythology and folklore behind them, they are rumored to be the communicators of the animal world, and they can speak all languages, including English and whatnot. And they're rumored to help hunters. And later on, as I was writing, I got a spiritual name given to me, which was Brenna. And when I did the research behind that name, it is Gaelic for raven, and it just seemed to fit, Raven's Whisper. Wow. It's stuck with me for a long time.
It's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
We usually ask our guests how they got into this field, but we know how you got into the field. That you were born with it, and developed it more and more and more, and then decided to put it into practice, right, and help people.
Absolutely.
Because people need help to communicate with their animals.
Yes.
Now, first question, how is it possible to talk to the animals?
Oh, well, it's so easy. And, you know, as everyone knows, all us pet lovers know that animals have intellect and a personality, and they speak telepathically. They communicate telepathically with each other. So all we have to do is learn to listen and pay attention to that sense and open up that awareness, and we can, you know, gain all that information that they have.
So it's like a voice in your head, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's where people wonder, am I talking to myself, or is this coming from the animal? Or so how would they know if
that it's outside of them and not imagination?
Right.
Well, at first, you know, with any psychic gift, it kind of comes in very light and subtle at first, and you have to learn to trust it and develop it and realize. You start to play with it a little bit, and it becomes stronger.
I think we've had that experience doing Reiki as well. It's when you know, when you first start doing the practice, it's you get these impressions and you kind of hold back from saying certain things, and then you trust yourself and you're surprised, even if it seems a little outlandish or off the cuff.
We wouldn't want to say it because we're thinking, they're going to think we're crazy, you know.
Right.
So.
And then you just, you know, kind of step out of the way a little bit and entertain that it's something outside of you, and you'll start to feel that it's a little bit different than like an answer that you would have, and you just go with it, you know.
Do you feel like every species of animal communicates a little differently?
They do.
Different styles?
Depending on whether how domesticated they are. Or if they're, you know, more out in the wild. Animals who tend to be domesticated and live with people, dogs and cats, for instance, tend to talk in words and sometimes feelings. Animals that are more primitive and have very little contact with humans will talk through feelings or emotions.
They
Primarily.
convey that feeling, emotion to you.
Yeah.
How about birds, like your pet parakeets and things like that?
Birds tend to be very conceptual thinkers and very highly developed intellectually.
Really?
So they like to think in stories, and they speak very well, are very articulate.
Wow.
Yeah, full sentences from them. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. That's really great. Yeah. What's the difference between an animal psychic and a communicator?
Okay. A psychic is someone who kind of reads what's going on in an animal's field or a person's field, much like when you have a psychic reading. But a communicator actually goes in and through meditation and through telepathic communication, they have an interaction with the animal, a conversation, if you will. So it's a slightly different energy there.
A psychic does read what's in the aura right then and there. Yeah, that is true. I understand that completely. Okay, so how does a session work?
Well, usually I get some basic information from someone, name, age, and breed, and some questions, some information that they're looking for, and I do a meditation either with the person or alone on my time, and do the session, and then we discuss it afterwards.
You go to their house, or they come to you? Or?
I can do it from a distance because I'm accessing the personality and the intellect. The animal doesn't need to be present at all.
Really?
Yeah, it's much like having a phone conversation. You know, I can reach them anywhere.
Do you go to them much, or how often?
I can. It just depends on if I'm working with like a rescue league, and I'm reading many animals for a particular place, or if it's a close friend, I will go to the place, or if I'm doing a fair and they bring the animal to me, or a vet's office perhaps. But often I do it from a distance.
I met one at one time, and she said, bring a picture. Or do you have a picture? That helps. It
can help. I enjoy seeing the pictures, but I don't need them. You know, it's like you don't need to see your friend when you call them on the phone. You know, you just. You know.
So you don't even talk to them on the phone. You just get the information and you meditate on it, and And they describe the animal to you, anything like that?
I
or-
need some characteristics to go in with, name, age, and breed, just to give me a sense of that I'm connecting with the right animal through the right person, and it just comes through.
What are there certain circumstances or scenarios that present themselves to you often, like from the owner?
Yes, I often get lost pets or pets that are sick, aging. A lot of my work tends to be around pets who are transitioning, who are getting ready to go.
Really?
Yeah.
And do you find that owners are reluctant to receive that information openly, or?
Oftentimes, the animal will give me the information in such a way that makes it easier for the person.
Okay.
So I enjoy those sessions myself because they, first of all, they tend to be very inspiring to me, and second of all, they really can give the person a sense of closure and knowledge of what's going on. It's like walking them through it, through the procedure. It's almost like getting a diagnosis from a doctor, that you kind of know what's going to happen with your loved one and what you can expect, and that, you can be there with them.
Do you have animals that hold back because of their owners?
They do.
That's what I've had when I've done Reiki on them.
Yeah, ones that really, people who are really having a hard time letting go, and they just go into such a grief, even thinking about it, that the animal will last years longer than they had meant to stay, and oftentimes they won't be really clear with what's going to happen, often because they just don't want to breach the subject with their person.
And they suffer more that way, though, don't they?
Sometimes they do, yeah.
I mean, if they're ill or something, but they just hold back,
Yeah, they do.
What do the animals talk about?
Oh, well, they don't tend to talk like you and I, just about anything, So we usually, that's why I ask for questions when I do a session, because, I need a place to get them gabbing, to start them with. But they will talk about, oftentimes, things that are going on in the home, problems that are going on in the home. They're very connected to our lives and our schedules, and things that are not going well, like if there's a person in the home that's sick, or a child that's having trouble for some reason, and they're picking up that discord. They'll talk about that. They'll talk about security issues.
Really? Like what?
Yeah, I have a wonderful cat that approached me not too long ago, named Zachary, when I was working for a horse rescue place in Connecticut. And he marched right up to me, through 3 fences, in between a couple people, and under a horse to get to me, and sat down and said, "I know you're here to talk to the horses, but this is very important." And he said that there were problems with the electric fencing, and that there were coyotes and a fisher cat that were able to breach the fencing at night.
Oh.
So it was quite a dangerous situation for the animals that lived there. So,
You told the owner?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he went and looked, and sure enough.
Absolutely. There was a break in the fence, and there was a way that the
Like
coyote,
that. That's great.
that they were finding a way to get in. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It still floors me after doing this for so many years that some of this stuff just really checks out. I mean, it's amazing. It's like I couldn't make this stuff up.
We're going to ask you for some stories after we get all the questions that we want to know. Do all animals communicate the same way?
No. Like I was saying before, they talk through emotions. Some talk through words and sentences. Others through pictures or emotions, feelings.
So they'll just send you a picture of what's instead of words.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Then they respond right back to you, like if you send them a message as well, you have this whole two-way conversation
Yes.
going on.
And I'll try to talk on their level, like through sending pictures back, and we'll see what we get. Or emotions, like oftentimes animals who are less domesticated will just go through feelings, like the pain or hunger or uncomfortableness, and I'll get that. And it gives me a baseline to go on.
So they tell you what's wrong with them through the feelings, through the emotions.
Yes.
Okay. I have to go back to that.
Okay.
I'd like to know.
How long did it take you to develop these skills to learn how to communicate? I know you said it was like a lifelong thing, but
Right.
did that pick up at any point, or?
Yes. After I had the experience with the dolphins,
Okay.
I came back and I took classes. I took a couple animal communication classes, and I took, it was like 3. It was only like maybe about 3 or 4 hours, tops, and I just really picked it up really quick, and that's when I started to have that recall of that I had been doing this for years, that animals had always gravitated to me, and there were certain situations that I knew what they needed or wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, my oldest daughter's a little like that, like the animals just come up to her like St. Francis of Assisi, It's like, she has that way, like she just has no fear or anything like that.
Yeah,
so
they really respond to energy that's in alignment with, who they are.
Yeah.
They can tell.
Yeah, they can.
Did you always have pets growing up?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were surrounded by animals.
Yes.
Just
I even
naturally,
kind of adopt them when I go on vacation. I tend to be, I tend to have the animals at the either resort that I'm living, staying at, or the people that I'm staying with. Their animals will flock with me and become mine for the week.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you learned more about it when you took the classes?
Yes.
Okay, so do you teach it now yourself?
I do.
Oh, do you?
I do. It can be kind of individual. I also teach through e-courses or classes at metaphysical stores, pet stores, things like that. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. So anyone can really learn if they put a mind to it, right?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, most pet owners are already doing it.
They should, yeah. If people love animals, they probably should do this.
Right.
That way, whatever they have in their life, they can
It's more about the trusting the messages that you get. Like, I think that we all just second guess or question. And sometimes having an outsider is beneficial because you're removing yourself from that emotional connection.
Yes, that's a benefit to what I do, is reading people's animals that I don't know, because I can stay pretty objective.
Right.
With my own animals, that gets tough, especially if there's...
I know, even with our work, to work on somebody in your family or...
Absolutely. The emotion gets in the way of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, expectations.
It's true. I think especially with animals, if he probably won't tell you something that's not good because you go, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The animal, you'd feel bad, right?
Rosemary,
I can see it difficult for the animal like that,
Yeah, sometimes,
But it would help in other ways, like letting them know, like some animals have, like cats, will have litter box issues.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Going outside the litter box or having a little poop outside the litter box.
Right.
Yes,
Now, I had a cat that used to do that when she was upset with me. She'd go there and do it outside litter box. And my daughter would say, no, she has a problem. I said, no, when she's upset with me. She couldn't believe it, but it was true.
Yeah,
it was true.
It's usually out of spite.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're doing something when they know they're not supposed to do, and they pick up on that, then it will happen.
We've
Most
had
behavior
a cat that's
issues.
had to be transitioned lately who's having some problems, so I'm going to have you come check them out.
Absolutely.
Do animals feel their age?
They do and they don't. They're aware of it. They definitely talk about things like arthritis and being more sensitive to temperature, but they stay much more present. So they don't grumble about it like we do. They don't connect with it on a daily basis.
Or as a problematic.
Not like we are.
Yeah.
Like Bacania, people love to get together and talk about their illnesses.
Well, we make the judgment about what it means for us, that because we're getting older, we're losing our game or whatever we want to, whatever negative judgment we want to make about it. And they just see that as that's just part of their transition.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it really is.
That acceptance,
And we've talked about this before too, about animals mimicking their owners, like illnesses, or taking on, like because they're empathetic, taking on some of that suffering. Do you see a lot of that in the communications that you have?
Yes, especially if they're really bonded with the person, they will start to lose a little bit of their instinctual nature and start acting more like a human, and they'll start to take on, mimic the same sort of arthritic problems. Tumors will show up in the same places, and people who have cancer will tend to have animals that have cancer. Diabetics, their animals will become diabetic.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've also read sometime an animal will take the illness from a person onto themselves and away from the person.
To keep it away from the person, yeah.
Have you heard that?
Yes, frequently that happens as well, because they are really great neutralizers of energy in the home.
Yeah, especially cats, I understand, right?
Yes.
Cats are
extremely sensitive to that, which I think they kind of get a bad rep about, their nature, about being very standoffish and
Right.
independent. But I think they do that. They go and take their time when they need to heal. But getting back to that, they really will neutralize the energy in the house and take away some of the stress and the things that are happening.
Some of them will pass on from it, though, huh? If they take it from an owner, they'll take it.
Yes, it can progress into an illness that will eventually progress into a transition. Yes.
People don't realize how much animals do for us.
They really don't.
You know, and they talk about. I'm a big animal advocate, and I'm always involved with people, and they're talking about and everything. They talk that animals can't think, they can't feel, they don't understand. I said, you don't even know the half of it. That they're here to teach us, and they're here to learn also.
Absolutely.
Learn from us and teach us, right? Am I wrong?
No, you're completely right.
Okay, so that's, what are ways we can enrich our animals' lives as they grow older, dogs and cats? What can we do?
Aging animals tend to be a lot like aging people in certain ways, that they like
comforts.
Yeah, the richness of life, not necessarily all the excitement that they liked when they were puppies or when they were younger, they were in their youth. But they like rich times and rich food and interesting smells and scents and experience. They revel in that experience as they get older.
Do they like quiet music?
They do.
I know my cats will want to go to sleep. And they'll hear, put on New Age soft music,
New Age classical music. They adore. I had a dog once that loved Mozart. Like the Mozart effect when that was popular, he would love that and gravitate to wherever in the house that was playing and lay next to the stereo. But it regulates the energy in the room and calms the energy, and they really do respond very well to that.
I wonder what they think about television that's loud and noisy and shooting and banging and all this that. Do you ever hear anyone ever? What do they say about that?
Oh, they don't like it at all.
No.
Yeah, it's very discordant energy, and they just don't like the sounds and the bangs, and they don't really understand it. What's
some owners will leave their TV on for the pet.
Yes, they'll leave the TV on for the pet with all that noise. And I'm going, I don't think they like that.
Yeah, I would say a better approach would be to leave the stereo on.
Yeah. They'll say, well, they need noise. No, you need noise.
Exactly. Yeah, they really don't
need noise.
Yeah, well, they may have become adapted to that, just like we have too.
Besides, their senses are so much stronger. They can hear the noise outside.
Yes,
they can hear the birds and the traffic.
The bombardment of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing that I notice with my animals, I think they see spirits because they'll be, like this talk, and all of a sudden.
I
go like this and move around and watch something, or they run across the room and there's nothing there. I ask, is it a bug? Is it a bug? There's no bug.
I have a poster of like this woman dying in a bed with her spirit rising and the dog looking at it. It was the
that's beautiful.
Picture.
Wow.
That is beautiful. Yeah,
they are very sensitive to energy, and they don't lose that connection with the unseen like we do as we get older. Many kids have that the sight, as they call it, and they don't lose that. So they just can see that.
They see spirit all the time.
They see spirit. They see auras. They see energy. Energy patterns and thought forms that collect in the house or the rooms or the outside. Yeah.
My cat used to chase something around the house, probably at least 4 days a week, maybe 5. Chase it all around. I'm going, what is he playing? But then he would chase under the bed, and then he'd look. He'd look, and he'd wait, and then and I go,
stop,
did you get him? Did you chase him? Who is that? Did you? And I talk to him like that, and he'd look at me, and run away, So that that's great. Yeah, they do that, especially when they look around and see the spirits.
Birds tend to be the most sensitive to spirits.
Really?
Yes.
I think they have something about. I always felt with birds, because they have flight, they can ground themselves and they have flight, that there's such a broader range of spiritual and worldly experience for them.
They have that connection, that in between, if you will. Yeah. The connection between land and air.
The same with the birds in the cage in the house? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wild birds tend to be more sensitive to that, because they don't lose some of their instinct as they normalize with people. But certainly birds are closer to that than, say, cats or dogs.
My friend had two lovebirds.
Mm-hmm.
They were beautiful. And I think these were two boys.
Uh-huh.
And when I go there and I talk to them, they'd be quiet. I go there and I walk up and they're quiet. Then I start talking to them, and they would talk to me. I don't know what they were saying at that time. I wasn't into, communicating, but they would talk and talk and talk. And I talked to one, and they'd, talk back, and I'd look at the other, and I'd talk to that, and they'd talk back, call them by name. I said, I can't believe they're talking to me. They're really talking to me.
Right.
And I go away, and they'd be quiet.
They're very smart.
And come back. And they were adorable. I never wanted to leave them. They were so adorable.
Well, animal relationships are very similar to people relationships. That the more you put into them, the more you get out, and they love attention. Certain more breeds other than over others, and depending on their personality or their breed, what they would enjoy communicating with you.
How about a question about like captivity and the effects of captivity on different animals and how they communicate that to you?
Often
even like
animals,
the birds in the cage was kind of the trigger for me.
Oh, okay. Animals tend to make a commitment to stay in captivity, and oftentimes, like zoo animals will make that commitment. Animals dolphins that stay in captivity will make that commitment. Animals, actually, dogs and cats who decide to come and stay in a home with a person actually makes that commitment. And it's a commitment of love, either through a certain job that they want to take on, or if they want to get closer to people. Oftentimes animals will evolve through different levels of domestication, like start off as wild animals, then move to farm animals, then maybe zoo animals, and then move
through
up.
their
As they incarnate
evolution.
over and over,
Yeah, and as they want to evolve in different ways and grow in different ways, they will take on different roles. And some of them will contract in to come in and be lab animals and animals that are abused and things
Now
like that.
I'm going to touch on something.
It's a touchy subject.
That really, how about the animals that are raised for food, factory farm food and all that? What about those animals? I heard they also contract to do that.
They do.
I mean, we shouldn't be eating them, I know that. But
it's a collective consciousness that's taken place, like we're playing this story together to learn something.
Absolutely. It's a nice way to put it, is a story or a play that's being played out in front of us to show us that the more we're able to connect with the abuse and things that are happening, the more we become aware on a global level that animals have feelings and emotions and
when they yell
experience.
and scream in slaughterhouses and so forth, how can people think that they don't feel anything?
I don't know.
It's amazing. It's truly amazing, the ignorance,
Right.
complete ignorance of people.
And I think it's through the long haul of seeing the degradation and how it affects our health that we come full circle.
Yeah.
And then we start to say, okay, how can this not be connected?
Right.
The abuse to the animals and, our own personal health and how the foods that we consume and the state that they're in when they're brought to us.
Everything, experimenting, when they experiment on animals and cause them all kinds of suffering and pain, when they dog fighting, for their fur. I mean, it can go on and on. It's all horrible. And I know that one of the things that they come, I know God is a patient spirit, and he wants us to recognize ourselves and stop doing this. Because I say, take the animals off the planet. Just take them, because it just pains me so much. But then we wouldn't learn, and I know that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they're just so much more highly evolved than we are, because they come here and they do this for us. They make ultimate sacrifice. Am I wrong here?
No. But I think there are different levels of awareness, with people, certainly, that will see certain things and choose not to. I think it's much like war, unfortunately, that sometimes you just have to drown out what's too painful to even think could be a possibility.
That's what I have to do,
Yeah.
because I couldn't bear it.
Right.
I just could not bear it, So I could never go into a slaughterhouse or go see someone do any kind of abuse like that with an animal. I couldn't. It's like, I can't even explain it. It's almost like, to me, animals are like children. You know, I see a baby,
Innocent.
and I see an animal there at the same time. I see an animal and I see a child.
Right.
You know, and I saw a little girl the other day. She was so cute. Then all of a sudden I visualized my cat, and I'm going, there it is, you know. And cats I like because you can cuddle them more. Yeah. They're both innocent, and like that song, Bless the Beast and the Children. And we have to protect them. We have to take care of them and so forth, you know.
Do you see that there? I mean, I know, you know, like as you were describing between the birds and other species, like a difference in, you know, maybe their intellect, or. But do you feel that there's different levels of like spiritual involvement with it amongst the animals? Like some are of a lower energy and some are of a higher energy.
Absolutely. Certain breeds tend to evolve, I want to say, quicker on some levels. Birds, for instance, because they tend to be a little bit more intellectual. Not to say that all birds are evolving quicker, but an interesting thing that I'm seeing now is that animals who are in a forever home and are loved and nurtured and their basic needs are met are evolving at a much higher rate along with their people. So when a client comes to me, the more higher evolved they are, oftentimes that leads to giving their animal expression to evolve into greater levels of evolution there too. And some of the lessons and teachings that I'm getting through the animals on that is really quite inspiring and you know, incredible, you know, on that level.
What do you feel they've taught you? What are some of the most valuable lessons?
More highly evolved?
Yeah, that they've taught you.
They'll talk about what's really important in life, about more leaning towards the beauty of life, and turning away from things that we don't want to see. It's not a lack of awareness, but it's a, you know, focus on and enrich what's really important. They'll talk about healing their bodies on deeper levels. Journeying.
That must be interesting.
Absolutely, yeah, journeying and in ways that we can bring them in. I have a client who tends to bring in animals who teach her more and more about Reiki and different locks in the body. She does a lot of, she helps animals transition frequently because she is very active in rescue leagues. And so these animals will teach her different locks to help them when they're ready to unlock, to leave, for the soul to leave the body. You know, and obviously it's building on her knowledge that she already has. So they are, you know, kind of coming to her and evolving with her through that.
They don't think about death the way we do they?
No,
They don't
no.
fear
It's such
it.
a natural transition.
Well, first of all, animals don't forget their lifetimes like we do. You know, we have to kind of tone out and focus on one lifetime at a time.
Right, the veil.
And they're so present that they can focus on this lifetime without having to unfocus on the other ones. So they tend to see it more as a graduation, you know. And oftentimes clients will come to me and be very grief-stricken and want to know if their animal will come back to them. And oftentimes it's a no, because they just, you know, will look at their life and say, wow, I did everything I came here to do and I had a wonderful time, but now it's time to move on. I'm moving on to college. There's no need to go back to grammar school, you know.
I've read some, I think Ghost Cats, I think I read that book, and they said some animals do come back. They do hang out here for a while. I guess they have their reasons.
Yeah. Well, it's much like people. Sometimes they'll stay on as guides. Sometimes they'll stay on because they weren't ready to go and their body left before they did. And they'll stay on in the house or as guardians, protectors, things like that. Or especially if people are having a hard time with their transition and they're going through maybe a lot of personal stress themselves. Cats will often stay and be felt at night purring on the bed, or you know.
Yeah, one of my cats passed on. The next night, she came and laid on my arm. I felt the pressure in my arm, and I said, if I open my eyes, will she be there? And I don't think she'll be there, and I don't want her to go, you know. And so I stayed quiet, you know, for a while. Then when I opened my eyes, of course, I couldn't see her, but she did do that for me, you know. The other one, no, he haven't seen him, he passed away about a year ago. The other night, for the first time, I had a dream that I picked him up, put him on my shoulder, where he used to like to be on my shoulder. So I said, finally, you know. So I guess just a little bit, because I wanted to know, is he okay, and all that. And I shouldn't worry, because I know all that other's true.
Yeah, you knew about it.
And they're in constant communication with the other side, right? And the heavens, the different heavens and the different places that they go.
That's a big question, is like, are there different heavens? Are there different afterworld experiences between animals and humans, or do we have a shared experience there?
In some cases, well, I do believe there's a shared experience. Let's just establish that. But animals will talk about it on different levels. Some will talk that they are over there with people and that they are met by people, and others will talk specifically about animals that they meet over there. So I think it's a shared experience, but just kind of like people, what they decide to do over there is much based on what we create over here as well.
I couldn't imagine living on the other side, a nice life without any animals around.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't imagine not ever seeing animals again. Though I hear some animals will incarnate eventually into a human, and other ones will stay animals, I guess. Animal, nature, spirit, and then human. Right. Is that right? Have you heard that?
There are different, beliefs on that, and I have encountered that the animals have taught me that on several occasions. It's not really one of my personal beliefs. Just basically, most of the animals that I deal with talk about staying in animal form. That it's just a different type of nature that they come in with, and so they'll choose to incarnate into an animal body.
What are your thoughts on like the extinction of certain species? Do you feel that they move as a whole species into another dimension or reality as a part of their evolution, or do you feel that, I don't know, that they just completely disappear?
Well, I don't think they completely disappear. And I'm not really sure. I'm kind of on the fence with that one, because I hear a lot about what's supposed to happen after the ascension of the planet and Earth changes that are happening.
Right.
I haven't. I know animals are evolving on a different level, and I have been taught on several occasions that animals are learning how to evolve and take their physical bodies into spirit. So I do believe it's possible. I'm just not sure, exactly what that looks like. I don't think we really are. I think we get glimpses of that here and there, and
so we're still living in,
I'm really kind of undecided. I don't believe that they disappear completely, but I think they,
transform.
I've heard that some of them are leaving the planet now. A lot more animals are leaving now, in preparation for the new changes that are coming. Then they're going to be back after the changes, and maybe some different forms of animals then, something we haven't seen before. And I also heard that the dinosaurs back in the prehistoric times, they did not stay that way, because the reason they were all left whatever happened then, that they all passed at the same time, maybe another earth cleansing at that time, was that they didn't need that life form anymore. I mean, can you imagine us living with dinosaurs? It didn't work. Something like that, So that made sense to me.
An evolution would have to happen. To cohabitate.
That's right. What healing modalities do animals prefer?
Well, certain breeds tend to like certain things. But it also depends on their personality greatly, and how comfortable they are with people, how domesticated they are. Horses tend to love massage, just because they kind of love that sentient touch. And dogs tend to love Reiki. They talk about colors, experiencing colors and shapes and things like that.
People.
Yeah. Cats tend to cats cats usually are more the Reiki givers, than that. Fish tend to like vibrational essences, because it will change the essence of their water.
Oh, interesting.
When I know when I've done it, my cat, sometimes they'll come they'll take it nice, and some will stay close, some will go across the room.
Yeah,
but then they'll come and they'll lick my hand,
Okay.
and I go, oh, I think they're done, and then walk away. And then I had read it from Kathleen. They wrote that book on animal Reiki, and she said they'll often thank you by doing that little kiss. That lick is actually a kiss,
Yeah.
And to say, okay,
Yeah,
I've
or
had
they-
enough.
Yeah, or they end the session somehow.
They
yeah.
end it, yes. Animals end the session. And
Yeah.
you're right, dogs will stay
Yeah.
a lot longer than cats will stay.
Yeah, and it often depends on, and I'm sure you both experience this when you work on people, conversely with animals as well, that, people tend to be able to accept more energy.
Yes.
Because they need it
They
more.
need-
They're more out of balance.
Yes.
And animals will not accept as much because they really just don't need it.
I know.
They just need
It's
sometimes a
interesting.
little
I've
tune-up.
found, with some clients will come when they're completely exhausted, and sometimes that's when they're the most open. Like it's like they've just given up.
Yeah.
They've allowed. They're
They
like, okay,
surrender
I'm
to it.
allowing it. I'm just so exhausted.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Yeah,
it's
that's
the
right.
animals.
Yeah, I had someone come who had eaten and had coffee. They could not relax. Caffeine in the food, and
Right.
just don't. So yeah, you're right. What are some of the things animals enjoy that might surprise their owners?
Well, we've already talked on music.
Yes.
That they enjoy music. Some animals love to be read to.
Really?
Either that or being near you when you read, because they telepathically pick up the pictures when we read something or think about something or speak about something.
Yeah,
we
we're
form
getting
pictures.
that image in our heads.
Yeah, so they tend to pick
Yeah.
that up. Horses love to be read to. Feral cats like to be read to.
Really?
Yeah,
From a
and
distance.
Yeah. Well, yes, definitely. There's some incredible programs across the U.S. now that are rescuing feral cats and just keeping them in a room, and they'll have volunteers come in and just sit and read to them, and not go anywhere near the
How
cats.
nice.
And then eventually the cats will start to get more open to people and being able to be treated
Wow.
through vet care or whatnot. And
That's wonderful. I would love to do that.
yeah,
I would
cat
love
reader.
to do. Yeah, I would love to do that. I know different people who do feed and take care of feral cats,
Yeah,
which are,
me too.
God bless them, they do this,
Yeah.
And one who finally made one a pet, another one who is coming closer to be a pet. So they do wonderful. There's a lot of great people out there, as
Yeah.
well as the people that are not so great, But
So what can we learn about our own life through our relationships with our companion animals?
They are great teachers for being present and paying attention to details in the small
you're
things.
so right.
Yeah.
They're so right.
Yeah, being present and being connected with our joy and what really our authentic selves. Not being overly concerned about the past or the future. Also, just about how to keep our center, our balance. For instance, an eagle who misses his prey doesn't decide I'm going to stop flying, that I'm a failure, I'm going to run after it now because he knows
That's
it's
very
good. Right.
I like that analogy. That's great.
And yet humans will overthink and
Oh, yeah.
overanalyze and struggle, and animals will stay true to their nature. One of the
So interesting. Yeah, we'll analyze and
That
judge
is,
ourselves
yes.
for, we made this mistake and beat ourselves up.
You're so right, Trace. I'm a big one for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Wow.
just get over it. Oh, there'll be other opportunities.
That's so great. That is so great.
And one of the truest places to see an animal's true nature in action, where it's fiery and passionate, is through rescue dogs, or rescue animals, or working dogs, working animals, I should say, of different breeds, specifically dogs.
That help the blind
That
and
help the blind,
deaf and so
or
forth.
that work for the
Police
police.
dogs.
Yeah,
Police dog.
absolutely.
Do they have? I always think that some of those dogs have such a sense of pride. Like they just
They do.
know that they're doing this service.
Yeah.
You know.
Have you communicated with one?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, what do they say?
Yeah. Oh, they know the rules, and they will tell you in no uncertain terms that you cannot come close. Do not pet me. I'm not a toy. I'm not a pet.
I'm
Okay,
doing my
goosebumps.
job. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are just so right on with who they really are. And it's just truly inspiring for me to communicate with them or be around them, because it reminds me, wow, like if I just could live from that place of knowing who I was and never doubting that 100% of the time.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're right.
It's big lessons
That's
there
what we all need to learn.
Absolutely.
Do they like what they do?
Absolutely.
The dogs, they do like
yeah.
it.
Dogs that don't, or animals that working animals that don't, usually will get out of it.
Long,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the policemen are very nice to them that they work with. I mean, they're like their own, I know, and they grieve and all that. They get hurt. Yeah.
They have a different energy, and it's certainly a bond. A bond because they know they're actually incredible communicators, although most of them wouldn't like to admit it. Because
The policemen, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah, really?
Like the horse whisperer, yeah.
Right, because that
We
might,
won't tell anybody that policemen are great communicators.
well, that might
Let
just
down
be,
the machismo.
yeah, it might just get a little too airy-fairy for them to think in terms like that. But
They're still macho.
yeah, but they really develop that bond, so they know without having without having physical evidence or having to look or see. They know where that energy is, where that bond is, and what's going on with the animal at all times.
Wow.
So.
That's great.
So what circumstances do you feel, have been more of the teaching opportunities for you, like the individual owner, pet situations, or like working with veterinarians or the rescue dogs? Or I'm sure they've all had their different scope of lessons for you, but what do you feel like you've resonated with the most?
The most, I would say, while I enjoy doing individual sessions, certainly, I think some of the rescue groups or the wildlife groups that I've worked with have really provided more expansion for me, because I've gotten to see on a broader scale on how animals affect the planet.
Yep.
And the
groups,
the global economy and their part in everything.
Well,
Yeah.
give us an example.
For instance, with the dolphins, what even they're so highly sensitive to things, just even in terms of negative energy, negative emotion, let alone pollution that affects them on a level, that changes their body chemistry and their thoughts and their emotions and things like that. Yeah.
How can we learn to develop a deeper relationship with animals?
It starts with awareness and love, really. We can communicate with anything that we love and that we really have a desire to get to know, to spend time with, to experience on their level, and not anthropomorphize them into, or make them into, baby humans.
Yeah.
A lot of people use them because
do that.
they're great nurturing tools. But to see them for who they are and really learn about their breed and their characteristics and their true nature.
And just thought came to my head. I've seen a lot of times, like on Animal Planet and so forth, about like dogs who will not accept someone, who will bark and bite, and there was like a husband and wife.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and they had to have an animal communicator, an animal whisperer come in and talk to him, but they never said what the dog was feeling. It just told them how to do it. But did you ever have anyone like that, and what might be going on? Yeah. I've heard things about, in a past life, this person was not very nice to animals, and and if an animal kills a person or really hurts them, of course the animal gets put to sleep by doing it, but in a past life that person did hurt another animal or kill or was terrible. Now, what do you think about that?
I've had many experience with things like that, where the person just was out of alignment and the animal just would not accept that, or if the relationship was bad for the person that they were really bonded to, they would not accept the other person, the spouse. Yeah.
Things
so it
like
can be on
that.
many levels, yeah. I actually had a dog once that was mauling the furniture, and a woman wanted to know how to make him stop. And he said, well, as soon as you get rid of him, because he was abusing her, as soon as he stops hitting you, I'll stop chewing on the couch. I mean, you really can't get more cut and dry than that.
Right.
And
did
was
you
that
tell
something
her?
she admitted to you beforehand, or was
She
that
didn't really
something?
have to,
Yeah.
So did she?
Eventually, I think she did, but you can avoid it, and you can, in that type of situation, all you want. But when your animal comes through with that, and a complete stranger can pick up on that, that's pretty much in your face. and you have to start looking at it, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
How about with lost pets? Do you get a lot of that where the pet is lost and you help to locate?
I do. It can provide a great sense of comfort for people to know that their animals is still alive, or if they've passed on, to know that, first of all. If they want to, if the pet is truly lost or trapped somewhere, I can often get details as to location or scenery,
Right.
Scenic indicators as to where the animal might be. So I will tend to get a lot of lost pets. And oftentimes, an animal will move on and run away and decide that they want to be with someone else. Or need a sabbatical in nature. I get that a lot as we go through more disruptive earth patterns. I'll get cats who will take off for 4 to 6 months and then come back home in the wintertime.
Wow.
They'll live naturally.
Sometimes
for a while.
animals will leave too if it's time for them to pass
So,
on.
yeah, I was just gonna say
Yeah.
that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because someone asked me to help about the greyhound, and I just kept getting that he wasn't far from the home.
Right.
But they were searching all over and they couldn't find him, and
Yeah.
finally someone, however it was, found him, and he wasn't far from the home.
Yeah.
But he was passed on.
Yeah.
It was cold. It was winter.
Oftentimes they will move on like that because they don't want to be fussed with, and they don't want the person to go through extraordinary measures to keep them around.
Right.
So they will just go and go peacefully.
Can you tell people more about their pet's illness and so forth than the veterinarian can?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, oftentimes, because I can access the animal's feelings, what they're feeling, how medications are responding in their body, information like that, how they're feeling with, proceeding through certain treatments.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure you help in a lot of situations where there's no, clue as to what's happening, and the pet tells you,
Yeah.
and so then they can go get the care that they need.
Yes, oftentimes many times I'll get clients who call me and say, my animal is just not acting right, and the vet, can't find anything wrong. So, can you give me a ways to go? And I'll get an area, sometimes very detailed information. Animals tend to be, or can be, very knowledgeable about what exactly is going on with them. I've actually gotten cats who have know exactly the diagnosis that they have and what they need to right
really?
it. Absolutely. Those, of course, tend to be animals who incarnate with healers and are around that sort of energy, so they're familiar with terms and such. But
Do pets choose you?
yes,
They do, huh?
yeah, they choose by energy and alignment, and your level of evolution. Yeah.
So there's no coincidence you go into, like, to rescue an animal from a shelter or something, and somehow this one animal just attracts you and so forth, right?
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence, is
Not
it?
at
It's
all.
just...
It's much like how we pick friends. Energetically, we will align with somebody or like their energy, or remember them from a past life, and the rest is it just works. It's just destiny.
We have about 5 minutes left, so maybe it would be nice to if you could tell some stories about the different pets that you've, communicated with or healed, or anything that you think the audience would find entertaining.
Just some, crazy stories. Animals tend to have a sense of humor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I had a dog once that described in detail the funniest thing he ever saw was a woman who dropped the Thanksgiving turkey when she was washing it, and it fell and slid under the table, and then all the animals came running, and she started screaming, and he thought that to date was the funniest thing he had ever seen, which you wouldn't think animals would think in terms like that, but he thought that was terrific.
That's a cute story.
I've known horses. I had a beautiful horse recently, a draft horse who just passed on, who didn't want to talk about his illness or what type of pain he was in. He wanted
stoic.
he wanted to soak up every bit of nature that he could, and would talk about the sunrises. I would consult him to see how he was doing, and we'd talk about, did you see that beautiful purple sunrise? Did you hear the birds this morning? And did you see the leaves are starting to change? How beautiful. Yeah.
No, it gives me
I got chills.
goosebumps.
I know, me too.
Yeah. That's nice.
Animals who are around Reiki practitioners who talk in detail about how they like sitting and watching the colors go into people and the shapes go into people, and how they'll watch a person walk into a healer's table and walk away energetically a different person.
Wow.
I get many stories of, and these are my favorite, of animals passing on and how they will thank the people that they're with for being with them every moment and every experience. And oftentimes when they pass, they'll pass through the person's heart chakra as like a final goodbye. Yeah.
Do you do a lot of like communication post death of the?
Yes.
You do. Okay.
Yeah, I've done it before, during, and after. Yeah, with some clients, and it that just provides just a sense of comfort for people. I've gotten numerous letters that it's changed people's lives because they were able to release the grief and realize that their animal was safe, or that if they died tragically, they really weren't in a lot of pain or didn't suffer for long, or what their experience was like. Yeah. Or who they met on the other side. I've had animals who are met on the Rainbow Bridge. They'll talk about the Rainbow Bridge.
Rainbow Bridge, yeah.
Yeah, by either another human that they knew here or another animal that passed on before them. And they'll talk about.
I hear when they just go right out of their body and easily and go right up to, the plane that they're supposed to be on.
I've had many animals that will talk about that they take they inhale here in someone's arms, and when they exhale, they're there.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
they view it like the person just handed them over to spirit.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they can always see the other side of life, can't they?
Yeah.
I've always had that feeling that they could see.
Yeah. So what
You know?
So how could you fear death if you know what that is?
Absolutely. Unless
Yeah,
you
how beautiful
overthink
it
it like
is.
we do.
Yeah, and they don't overthink it. Well, some, I guess, I don't know, some that are nervous animals, and so have you ever had anyone that was like that? And what, did they say why that they're like that?
Oftentimes it's because they're not stimulated enough, either physically or mentally. And oftentimes animals will take on their person's nervousness. Yeah, so it's not uncommon to get a neurotic person who has a neurotic dog.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you know what? It's over. My goodness, the time goes by so fast. I want to thank you. This was so wonderful.
Thank you. It was such a
There's
pleasure to be
so
here.
much.
Thank you.
So much to talk about with that kind of thing. Just so much. Well, we're going to give the information on our guest right now. That's how you can reach her.
Okay. To contact Rachel Perzanowski. She's an animal communicator and intuitive reader at Raven's Whisper. Her phone number is 203-333-6130, and you can also email her at ravenswhisper@optinline.com, and her website is www.ravenswhisper.com. And I will put up our information. For information about this show or any of the past shows, and to find out when our shows are playing in your area, or for any questions you may have, please email us at healoutsidethebox@yahoo.com, or call Rosemary at 203-627-7966, or Traci at 203-232-3405. And we're now on Facebook, so please visit us there and join in the conversation.
Okay.
We have a quote for tonight.
Here's our quote for tonight. To say I love animals cannot begin to encapsulate my feelings about them. I have loved them with such passion all my life, and remember fondly every animal and bird trusted to my keeping or crossing my path. I do not, could never view them in the ways of the world. While communicating with them, never would I want to humanize them. That is an affront to the animal kingdom, and ultimately to ourselves. We are not animals. We are meant to be higher up the chain of evolution, though sadly, many times I feel we are anything but. No dog has ever not come with me, no matter how their owners have stated they were one-man dogs. There's an openness and vulnerability in an animal that breaks my heart. I have no time for those who say that they do not like animals, because the fault is always with us. Domesticated or wild, animals, they are our teachers. And that's by Allison Stormwolf. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Please join us again.